This is ESPN Esports. I'm Arda. Absolutely blockbuster news as it pertains to Optic Gaming. The Green Wall has reportedly been reacquired by the man that made it famous in the first place. I'm talking about, perhaps once again, Optic Hecz. That's right, Hector Rodriguez acquiring Optic Gaming, according to the Esports Observer and Kevin Hitt. So this is also pending league approval, and I can tell you that I have been talking with sources that confirm that these are in advanced talks, though nothing is 100% set in stone yet. There is still pending league approval. We also don't have any terms that were discussed, anything financial about this deal. But one thing that I was able to confirm with sources is that no matter what happens here, if the acquisition does go forward, and if Hector Rodriguez of Hecz is in possession of Optic Gaming, he will not be leaving the NRG organization. He will remain in the NRG family. That is one thing I was able to confirm. So you hear this news, Optic Hecz is back, Optic Gaming back in what many people would say to be the rightful hands of the man that made the brand famous in the first place. So this has a lot of questions attached to it. We should unpack some of it. Of course, at this point, we're going into speculation now. A lot of this is going to be opinion. That is all we know in terms of what is factual about this deal. But let's assume now, let's guess now, hypothesize, if this deal does happen and Hecz is now in possession of Optic Gaming, and also there's that second CDL slot. There are a lot of questions here. The first one is, what happens to NRG's existing CDL slot? Do they rebrand as the Chicago Optic? Will the Huntsman brand go dormant? Will it remain in NRG? My opinion on that would be, why not make it the Optic brand? Because there's so much brand recognition, there's so much nostalgic value to Hecz and Optic specifically. So it would only make sense for me. And yes, the Huntsman was a great, they built up the Huntsman very much. The social media was top of its class in CDL, and Hecz was a large part of that as well. But just imagine what Hecz would do with Optic Gaming back in his hands. So you gotta think that that would be the front runner anyway, in terms of public opinion, but also within the walls of the NRG organization. That has to be the front runner of how the future of how NRG will operate under season 2 in CDL. So the next question is, well, what happens to that second CDL slot? According to the rules, no organization can own 2 CDL slots, or anyone with any sort of financial interest or investment. So that means that one of those slots has to go. So where does that go? This has precedent, by the way. When Infinite sold, the parent company of Optic sold to Immortals back in 2019, there were 2 Overwatch League teams associated with that, right? Immortals already had the LA Valiant, and then Optic and Infinite had the Houston Outlaws. And then soon after, you heard the news that the Houston Outlaws were sold to Beasley. So that happened in November of that year. And every step of the way, there was a lot of league involvement as that transition. There's a grace period that you receive, much like NRG would receive should this deal go through. There would be a grace period where the league would be involved essentially every step of the way to ensure a smooth transition to a new owner. I did ask as well, and I've asked several people on what the appetite is like for a CDL franchise slot. Of course, the pandemic putting a lot of budgets in disarray, a lot of organizations concerned about money right now. As you have seen, the league is also shrinking. It's not expanding due to the pandemic in terms of number of teams in the league, but also number of starting positions from 5 to 4. So certainly some of that has to do with budgetary concerns. But in speaking with a lot of people within CDL and esports, the appetite, despite all of that, for a CDL franchise slot is enormous. There would be people lining around the block to speak with Hecz and NRG for that second slot. I think the front runner on social media is certainly Nadeshot and 100 Thieves. I think that people would love to see 100 Thieves in CDL, that return, Nadeshot being back involved officially as an executive with 100 Thieves. I think people would appreciate that very much. Maybe the name would have to be tweaked a little bit for CDL purposes, but still, people think that that would be a match made in heaven once again, just to be able to see that. Much like seeing Hecz with the Optic brand, to see Nadeshot back in CDL or associated with CDL as an executive in this capacity in the CDL would be great for many people. Of course, the name Dr. Disrespect is going to come up because he's been talking about owning a CDL franchise on his stream. Hey, Imagine a world where Dr. Disrespect, after everything he went through in 2020, going from Twitch to YouTube, being banned, everything like that, and then all of a sudden becoming a success on YouTube. Imagine if he were involved in purchasing a CDL team and he were operating a CDL team. I mean, the possibilities here are really endless, but what we will leave it at is the fact that there are a lot of suitors. There are, we don't know. I was not able to confirm whether or not discussions have already happened. Presumably, my opinion, yes. There probably is a short list. My opinion here, there's probably a short list of teams that they've already spoken with. If this is already in advanced talks and they know they're getting the slot, they probably already have maybe 2 or 3, maybe Nadeshot's one of them, maybe Doc is there too, who knows. And I will say this as well, we don't know the terms in which the OpTic acquisition was had, assuming that it is going to go through. But you can also bet that the franchise slot part of it is the real profitable portion of the sale. If you're looking at it from a purely economic standpoint, perhaps they were able to buy low, sell high, and flip that franchise slot. And so that would certainly be a very highly profitable endeavor if you were able to pull that off, especially what you paid for to get it in the first place, which we don't know at the moment. So let us know in the comments below what you think is going to happen, what NRG CDL team will be named, also what you think about Hecz getting the OpTic brand back, how you think it will grow, do you think this is a good thing, what you think will happen in the future, and also who will buy that second CDL slot. Give me some names of teams, give me some brands, give me some organizations. Who would you like to see? Who are the likely candidates? Let us know in the comments below.